Hello guys, and welcome back to another video, and today we're looking at a scenario where the entirety of the Western Hemisphere disappears. So here we have the entirety of North and South America and chunks of Europe and Africa. I don't know why I pointed at this backward. Gone. I deleted pretty much every country that has majority land area on a flat map to the left of the prime meridian. Or if you look at it from the other side of the globe, then obviously it's going to be different. But that is what is considered the Western Hemisphere. Obviously this line is not perfect. The actual line is about there. So I tried to get every country that was majority on the left of it. Algeria was the one that I was contemplating where to put it, but since most of it is below France and I'm leaving France in it, then I decided to leave Algeria in it as well. Once again, not perfect, and I don't know how this would happen. It's impossible to happen, but we're going to assume it somehow did. Now, first things first, power dynamics in this world are just blown away, just gone. The most powerful country and the most powerful country in the world and the largest economy has just disappeared, along with plenty of other insanely strong countries, including the United Kingdom, a nuclear power, and one of the most powerful militaries and economies. Also including Spain and Portugal, along with Brazil, Colombia, Chile, Argentina, Mexico. Just a lot of at least decently important countries. Obviously, this would cause the world's economy to crash. We're going to assume somehow that doesn't happen. Who would gain from this? China and Russia. Why? Well, their main rival, the United States of America, is now gone. So, in almost all of my videos, the West comes out on top. The United States of America and their allies take full control of the world. But I think this may be the first time, maybe the second or third time in one of my videos, that Russia and China will win. First things first, of course, all U.S. allies decide to form up an alliance just to deter any invasions. So it originated as a South Korean and Japanese alliance, and then there was a European alliance already in place. And eventually these two groups just decided to start working together more and more, until eventually they were practically the exact same thing. In Europe, France, the Benelux, Germany, the Nordics, everyone is joining in here for protection against Russia, for protection against China, just depends where you are. And Russia and China are most definitely going to use this to their advantage. Even Austria joins, a decently neutral country in our world. Obviously US leaning, but the Balkans are all joining in, Hungary, Czechia and Slovakia. Everyone here is just joining this alliance out of fear of being invaded. We're also assuming the Ukraine war hasn't started yet, so they're let in, as are Moldova and Romania. Everyone here is just joining in to try and keep themselves alive. Is this going to work? Well, for now, yes. Russia and China are definitely quite powerful countries, and with the US gone, the main protector of the West is gone. But we may see the West still survive somewhat by, as I said, uniting themselves into one singular front. The decent powerhouse still. Decent power. Maybe it would probably not stand up to the entirety of the East, but for now it is going to survive. With this alliance out of the way, Russia is going to begin its expansion. Without being able to push into Ukraine, it looks in other directions, and without the US to stop it, it annexes Belarus. This is diplomatically, not by war, but it is still Russia expanding. In the middle, what? I don't know what that was. But in the Middle East, Georgia and Azerbaijan have both joined the yellow team, along with Saudi Arabia, the UAE. There was another alliance down in the Arabian Peninsula between all of these countries. And now that has united with the yellow team, even Israel is allowed access. So the yellow team is definitely going to survive here, but the East is not only going to expand. Russia, now seeing this massive power growing on its border, decides that it needs to be strong enough to stop it on their own without relying on Chinese assistance. So they're going to go ahead and annex Kazakhstan, and just try and make themselves be recognized as the most powerful country. By military, they would be number one to begin with. But honestly, I see China taking that title any day now. India may join the yellow team soon, but for now, they refuse. And China and Russia make their alliance official as they sign a pact of friendship. This pact basically just states if one of us gets attacked, we both get attacked. And if one of us declares war, well, we're both going to declare war. That extra part may not be in there, but it will make this more interesting for sure. Now with this rivaling the yellow team, we're going to see both sides expanding. As Mongolia and Pakistan join the purple team, along with Iran, and pretty much the rest of the Middle East. This is turning into a second Cold War between the West and the East, but once again, the East has been more than bolstered by this. They have just... Well, no, East hasn't even gotten any stronger at all. It's just that the West is now a much more major power, and that is going to be amazing for them. So yeah, with this new Eastern Alliance forming up here in Asia, the West is going to keep looking for allies, and they actually find one very major country, that country being India. With India on their side, they now feel safe, as India is now the largest country in the world, but the purple team is more than expanding. With the USA gone, a lot more of the world is influenced more by China and much less by like Europe, Japan, and India. So a lot more of the world is going to start flipping to the purple team side, especially over here in Africa, where China starts to get themselves some allies. They begin by telling Somalia, hey, we can send you like $50 billion to fix yourself. I know it's not a lot, but Somalia accepts. Might even send them a bit more than $50 billion. I mean, China has the money and they need allies in this region. From there, they try to do the same to Egypt, but Egypt is still only leaning onto their side. Serbia instantly joins, and even Montenegro joins, seeing it as more, I guess, stable than the yellow team in this situation. And from there, honestly, a few more countries may join, but I think it's about time for war to start. How's war gonna start? Well, of course, over here, normally I start it maybe with Taiwan, maybe with Ukraine. Let's do something different with Armenia and Azerbaijan. Well, Armenia just declared war on the entire blue team, and since there is also an offensive sector to the purple team alliance, they also join in. I'm zooming out a whole lot, don't ask me why, but that is one major world war, just stretching from north to south. Everyone is probably gonna die here. In the beginning, though, I think we know who's gonna win this. Iran and their allies begin to push out into Turkey, capturing Azerbaijan and Georgia. We also see them begin to push down to Jordan, Kuwait, and Saudi Arabia. From there, Pakistan and China begin to push into northern India, whilst India begins two offensives, one into Pakistan and one into Myanmar. The blue team also gets a few more allies, with Vietnam and Thailand both deciding that they shall not fall to Chinese influence. The Philippines also join in. They actually joined the alliance. I forgot to color them in. And down here, Malaysia joins the blue team alongside Singapore, whilst Indonesia joins the red team, having already been heavily influenced by China due to high investment. So yeah, the entire, I guess, Southeast Asian Pacific island region has just changed drastically. Brunei, I don't know what side Brunei would be on. I doubt this is offensive to anyone, but I have no idea what Brunei's up to, so I'm just going to say Indonesia declared war on them. So now, I mean, both sides are expanding, and the biggest thing is about to happen, and that is Egypt. China had been slowly but surely getting them on their side, and that is just going to be absolutely massive. Over here in Europe, Kosovo officially rebels, and Europe is going to have a pretty easy time taking out Serbia. From there, they attempt to capture Kaliningrad and Belarus before the Russian army arrives. But sadly for them, they do not have all the support they have in our timeline, and the red team is very much so invigorated and has a lot more morale, as they may actually win this. I know, right? Insane. China then decides, we need to do something drastic. It's the beginning of the war and we have to demoralize them. What's something absolutely insane that if happened would absolutely ruin probably like most blue team chances of winning? Taking out South Korea? They may not look large, but they are one of the most powerful militaries on Earth, and if China can successfully take them out, oh, that would be absolutely massive for the red team. So with North Korea conscripting 2 out of 3 citizens in the country, and China sending in a couple 100,000 as well, South Korea is just getting absolutely overrun. Better tech isn't going to save them here, and South Korea capitulates. From there, China begins to push into Vietnam and down to Thailand. Europe cannot send aid, so it is just these countries fighting for themselves. Taiwan attempts to rebel, but China quickly quells that. And this is not looking quite amazingly for anyone. Russia's beginning to push into Ukraine, and they are also beginning up. Gotta set that to 0. They are also going to begin to push back the Europeans out of the Russian homeland. So they push them back around Ukraine and even a decent amount out of Belarus, along with pushing them back in Finland. In southern Finland, they begin their own advance, and over here in the Baltics, they capitulate Estonia and Latvia. They then attempt to continue their push downward, but the Polish military stops them in their tracks. As for Ukraine, well, they are fighting valiantly, but without any countries really being able to send them aid, as every country needs it for themselves, they are getting absolutely screwed over. Israel, gonna fight for their lives, but with Palestine fully rebelling, and them just overall not looking too good on like a 5-front war, Saudi Arabia refusing to send help, Israel just capitulated. Another absolutely massive win for the red team. As for Turkey, well, they're holding on in their mountains, and Ukraine is struggling to survive. Over here in Finland, the Finns are trying to fight back with some guerrilla tactics, but overall the Russians are pushing in. And in the Baltics, it is looking like a complete and total Russian overrun, as the blue team is fully pushed out. They're also nearly pushed out of all Russian lands except for a small Ukrainian-Polish division, like small little advance into Belarus. Russia then continues its advance into Ukraine, and once again, the red team is finally winning. Don't underestimate the blue team, though. They are still going to do their absolute best, and the Arabians are gonna absolutely crush the Yemenis. Yemeni? I think that's what you say. Then they're gonna divert all their divisions up to the north, and even manage to push back the red team a bit before just trying to hold out. As for Turkey, well, they're slowly getting pushed back, but they're still holding out in the mountains, if not just sending every Turkish man, woman, and child to fight. Over here in Poland, Russia is starting a massive offensive, hoping that with the fall of Poland, some European countries may reconsider this war. Finland is also getting kind of destroyed. I mean, Russia! The Finns would most likely put up a better fight in real life, but this is Russia with aid from pretty much everyone. And they have somehow managed to capitulate the Finns, possibly by starting originally small campaign in the country, with a few spies, and just a bit of influence to begin with, which slowly grew over time. They used this to finish morale, and that's just not really good for them. Cyprus joins the blue team, but they get instantly destroyed. And India is slowly but surely realizing that you can't just send bodies to the front line and hope they win. India is, however, in real life and in this world, the most populous country, so they are going to start to push out. They have a very powerful military, and China just spent everything they had to take out South Korea and is pushing down to Southeast Asia, where Vietnam is using some ancient tactics, not that ancient, from like 50 years ago, and just killing a bunch of Chinese. In the end, though, China will win that fight, and with Bangkok falling, Thailand also surrenders. With this, well, it's safe to say this war is not looking good for the blue team. They are slowly but surely getting absolutely destroyed. Japan is starting to realize that they're secluded and being embargoed by the red team. So their people are starving. India's doing whatever it can, but their people are also starving. And in Arabia, you know all that oil? Well, oil isn't that good for you if you can't export it anywhere. So with pretty much all blue team countries being cut off, and Europe, who relies on some other areas, also struggling, we can really see that in an actual World War III. Naval supremacy is what helps the blue team, but without the United States of America and some other allies on their side, such as the UK, Spain, or even some other American allies, they are not going to be able to use naval supremacy to their advantage. And the red team is now pushing down to Malaysia. Malaysia successfully defends Kuala Lumpur and even pushes back the Chinese, but growing, Chinese support is growing in the country and in Singapore as well. From there, Indonesia just completely captured the island of Borneo and is now slowly but surely getting closer to the Filipino homeland. They're also threatening Australia, as the Australian military is pretty powerful, but with Chinese aid, it would be crushed. We then see that the emus rise up, and the emus decide not to side with the red team, but they actually start their own faction. The emus quickly take out Australia, and then they take out the entire red team, followed by taking out the entire blue team. From there, the entire world falls to the emus, and we all now have to speak emu. Sadly for us, that won't happen, although that's probably better than a nuclear apocalypse. And what I meant to say there was Malaysia just fell, and a naval landing is planned on Australia. The Nicobar's also fell, which is just a small campaign, but I still want to mention it. In northern India, the Pakistanis and Chinese are really starting to show military force. If you didn't know, some of the major cities you may know, like Mumbai, are more down here, but a lot of India's population is actually up here near the Himalayas. China's really going for that, and with the Indian capital very nearby, India's forced to retreat some divisions out of Pakistan. The Pakistanis recapture Karachi, and the Indians are slowly but surely getting pushed out of China and Pakistan. With the Indians now completely running out of guns and other resources, and with their people starving, they may be soon to just downright plunge out of existence. The Philippines, well, they're still holding out, but Chinese and Indonesians just made a landing and they're pushing them around. Without any American aid, the Philippines, well, let's just say Manila is captured and the Filipino government surrenders. There may still be some fighters, but the government itself has fallen. Okay, well, red team's looking like it's doing really well, but where's that really going to show? Over here in Europe, where the Russians have finished kicking out the blue team of any Russian lands and are now fully advancing into Ukraine, who's looking closer and closer to capitulation, along with sending nearly 1 million men into Poland. A lot of them are going to die, but the country does surrender, leaving Germany very frightened. They have no oil, and a lot of these Western Europeans, they're used to a very good life. They have amazing economies. With this war, they're dying, and they started this to protect Azerbaijan. It's not really looking that important. So in the end, France and Germany leave, which leads to Benelux leaving, and now Europe is far more undefended. Sweden and Norway make a deal with Russia that gives them back their land in return for them leaving the war. And we really just see Russia's new strategy here being get a bunch of countries to sue for peace / leave the war. And in the end, you'll have such little countries to fight, you can win. With the blue team now fully demoralized, this war is just seeming easier and easier for Russia. Now, pretty much all they have to do is finish off Poland, maybe kill a couple more countries, and you're done. The world is yours. Italy and Turkey are still in the fight, but with Poland gone, they're the only ones really holding the European front. And Italy also just decided that the war situation has developed not necessarily to their advantage. Austria wishes it had stayed neutral. And the rest of Europe is finally starting to realize how screwed they are. As for the rest of these countries, well, they're going to unite into European Union and say, hey, Russia, China, we were just fighting a war, but we're friends, right? And Russia and China basically, they've already secured themselves as a global hegemon, They agree to this new alliance with the Europeans, and now all these citizens are getting better lives, so without the US, who's really going to stop them? Even a form of Kalmar Union forms up between the Swedish, Norwegians, and Danish. Probably just to defend against any future Russian aggression, but they also have a pact with the Europeans of defense. Oh god, this is just getting worse and worse for the entire world. With it looking like a much worse situation for the blue team, no countries are willing to join them, and the Japanese people have now lost all morale, and despite having an amazing military and economy and just everything, Japan just lost their most northern island, and they are getting incredibly and increasingly scared. So Japan here is going to sue for peace. With Japan gone and the Western Europeans out of the war, it's pretty much just India, Arabia, maybe Australia left in the war. And Australia, who just fought a massive civil war against the Emus, is now going to leave and take New Zealand with them. This war is pretty much over. India's gonna fight. India is going to fight to their last breath, as will Turkey and probably a lot of these Balkan countries. And they're not going to make it easy for the red team. Saudi Arabia is exerting the fact that they have desert, just endless desert, no rivers, no lakes, no nothing. They're going to burn down. They're going to use some ancient Russian tactics from Napoleon times, I know, so long ago. And they are going to burn down everything that the red team takes, making this incredibly difficult for the red team to push into. If there's no infrastructure, it's literally just desert you're marching into. And without proper supply, that means your troops are just gonna die of heat exhaustion, of just exhaustion in general. This is a nightmare for the red team. Over here in Turkey, it's not much different, but they've gotten past the worst of the mountains, and Turkey is slowly but surely looking like it's gone. Poland and Czechia and Slovakia and Ukraine all just fell. Moldova just fell. The blue team tried to do something with the Danube, but that just fell. Serbia and Montenegro are back, and Croatia, Slovenia, and Bosnia just fell, leaving just Greece and Turkey fighting together. Yeah, that's not going to go very well. Over here in Arabia, it's not going amazingly for the blue team, but like I said, Iranian, Egyptian. The Iranians and Egyptians are the main ones that China is sending to die, as they are the most accustomed to these conditions. China originally tried to do it themselves, but a bunch of Chinese died and they just kind of left. Now China is starting a major campaign into the Indian East, as there's a very small supply point here, and China is going to take full advantage of this to capture the entire region. Oh god, India, this isn't looking good. You were just forced to retreat out of all Pakistani lands. Your capital was just captured, Mumbai was just captured, and this is just not looking good for you overall. Over here in Arabia, slowly but surely the countries are falling, with the red team using their naval supremacy to resupply some divisions along the coast. The more inland you get, the harder it gets, but they're doing what they can. And over here in Turkey, yeah, they're gone now. This is pretty much just full global domination. The Arabians are going to do their best to fight back, but there is nothing they can do, as in the end, the red team is going to take this land. And India is going to be the most difficult piece of land to take, but in the end, India cannot win this fight. Just looking at it, it is incredibly obvious that India will eventually lose. They're going to send every single Indian just to throw themselves at the red team's guns. And normally that's Chinese strategies, but here that's what India's doing. And it is going to kind of work. They just start throwing themselves at the Chinese, using whatever manpower they gain from these new lands to throw more bodies at the Chinese, but eventually the Indian people realized that the government is just using them as human meat shields and stop fighting. Some of them desert the Indians and some of them just completely refuse to fight. With that, India now no longer has that massive manpower advantage, which up against Pakistan and China they still didn't. And after Pakistan and China capture all the north, the Bengal area, and a lot of the coast, India is forced into surrender/capitulation. With that, we see that China and Russia are now just the global leaders. They decide everything. And if you disagree with them, then you're soon to be killed. The EU is doing their best to maintain good relations, and you know what? That will work for now. As for Russia, well, to begin with, they're going to restore all former Soviet territories. So they're going to annex Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Ukraine, Moldova. They're going to annex Georgia, Azerbaijan. Well, actually, maybe not Azerbaijan, but they are going to annex Georgia and all of Central Asia. Who is on their side, but they still decide to annex them. This already heavily enlarges Russia. Probably going to be a lot of resistance here, but eventually it may be stopped. Hey, now just violently kill anyone who resists you, and eventually you'll win, right, Russia? Yeah. Great. May not even be enough Russian loyalists anymore. But in the end, Russia is at least going to take this land. And with that land back, they're going to start taking some stuff. First up, they annex Finland because they really have a grudge against the Finns after killing so many Russians just to take that small amount of land. As I mentioned, they annexed Georgia, and they now control all of Central Asia, as every country here either joined them willingly or Russia kind of just forced them into it. They said that it was a union for the mutual benefit of all the peoples of this area. But everyone just knew that Russia was trying to get bigger, as China is getting stronger, and Russia doesn't want this to turn into what happened to the UK when they allied themselves with the US, where China is just going to turn themselves into sole power, with the Russians at second place. Whew, that was a lot of talking, but let's just finish up drawing in these borders, and we can look at what has happened to the world. It is safe to say that China's very happy and Russia's very happy. I've said that like 3 times, but this is really it's terrible for anyone who likes the US. Absolute torture for them. As for what lands Russia isn't going to fully annex, well, Poland's going to lose all of their north and a good amount of other lands, whilst Slovakia's as well, as is Hungary. And Romania, even Romania, poor old Romania, is going to lose their coastline, along with Bulgaria losing, maybe not Bulgaria losing all their coastline, but Romania is going to lose theirs. Come on, I still don't like those borders. Why can I not get this? Okay, there, just there. Yes, perfect. Why not? Romania's lost a lot of land, but they're only about to lose more, as with the Russians pushing to there, they're also going to take a good amount of northern Turkey. They also take a decent amount of land out of Azerbaijan, including the most important city and the capital, Baku. As for Armenia, well, they're going to be expanded into Azerbaijan, along with getting the Azerbaijani exclave and a decent amount of land out of Turkey, forming a greater Armenian state. Iran is going to get the rest of Azerbaijan, along with slight land concessions from Turkey. They are also, well, actually, no, that's all they're going to get. Wow, Iran, you didn't get nearly as much as you should have. I'll give you some of the Azerbaijani panhandle, I guess. No, actually, that's going to Armenia. Sorry, Iran. As for Iraq, well, they're going to get a small slice of Turkey. Same thing with Syria, very small slices of the country. The red team just doesn't think they deserve this at all. Syria might get a bit of northern Yemen, whilst Iraq expands into Yemen and Saudi Arabia. But overall, the main thing Iraq takes is all of Kuwait and a lot of the Saudi Arabian coast. Not a lot, barely anything, but hey, it's something. As for Israel, well, anyone who likes Israel, click away now, because you are not going to like what happens to it. What happens to it is after losing a bit of land, this is now Palestine. and Palestine is going to take some land out of Jordan. There is no more Israel. The Jews are just sent somewhere else. This is now Palestine. Hey, I told you, look away. But hey, the Palestinians joined this war for independence, and they got all of Israel. So why not? Yemen's also heavily expanded. Probably can't hold on to that, but too bad for them. Over here in India, well, it's not going to be great for the Indians. The Pakistanis start off by taking a whole lot of land that is mostly made up of Indians or just people who don't want to be Pakistani. So let's see how that goes for you, Pakistan. And the rest of the north is given over to China, along with this entire, I guess, eastern. It's almost an exclave, but there's a very small area where it touches with the rest of India. Yeah, that's now just China, except for a little bit that's given to Myanmar for their troubles. Very, very little. But Myanmar is going to get a much more considerable amount out of Thailand. Although a little bit of the Thai, I guess, what should I call that? It's not really a panhandle peninsula. No, because it's the Malaysian peninsula. I don't know. Well, a little bit of that part of Thailand is going to be given over to the Malaysian government, who's going to lose all land on Borneo to the Indonesians, since Malaysia in the end did decide to side with the Chinese. As for the rest of Thailand, well, it is going to have a complete just destruction of the country, with it being split up among Myanmar, Cambodia, and Laos. Same thing with Vietnam, just it being split up between Cambodia, Laos, and here China also gets some of it. So yeah, Cambodia and Laos really coming out of this well. North Korea gets all of South Korea, China gets Taiwan, and these islands right here. Russia annexes the northernmost island of Japan, and all border disputes are solved. Serbia and Montenegro. Well, they're just going to form Yugoslavia, but it is going to be Greater Yugoslavia. Those all the borders? I believe so. I do so much so believe so. In the Philippines, it may just be, it's probably just going to get a puppet government to the Chinese. Everyone who wasn't annexed is now just going to be a puppet to either the Chinese or the Russians. And that's just about what you should expect, as nobody can be allowed to flip back to the old side. The red team took a lot of casualties here, and they want to make sure this doesn't happen anymore. So now they just completely dominate the world to the point where nobody else can grow their power or influence at all. Iran, you took some land. Good job, I guess, Iran. Iraq got a lot more oil there. Not an insane amount, but you took Kuwait, which is going to give you so much oil. As for Syria, they got like Haiti. I don't even know if it's still called that. I just know that from Hearts of Iron. A bit of land in Turkey, a bit of land out of Jordan. Not that important. Lebanon, wow, you got like the smallest slice of Israel. Israel just doesn't exist anymore. This is now Palestine. Once again, Israeli supporters, you should have clicked off. Actually, please don't. But Egypt, they got a slice of land. They got a small slice of land. This is probably going to be turned into a pro-Egyptian, pro-Iranian government, as neither side can decide who gets what. The Arabian one may be turned into an Egyptian puppet, while the Turkish one gets turned into an Iranian puppet. But we really don't know how it would get divided up. There is quite the multitude of ways it could, with Iran just deciding to take everything, Egypt just telling Iran to suck it since they're better, or maybe just China and Russia stepping in to intervene and make sure that their alliance doesn't instantly fracture after they win a massive war. Okay, as for the rest of this land, Iraq gets a bit of Turkey. Yay, good for you, Iraq. Armenia, once again, Greater Armenia here. I don't know if this is their greatest extent ever, but it's definitely a massive extent for the country, which more than doubled, probably not tripled, but more than doubled their size. Russia got some land out of the Caucasus. They got Baku. That's the most important city, maybe in the entire region. Turkey, they're fine, but they're a puppet state now. And now you just have to try and all of these borders for the Russians. I am learning how to like cut things though, so hopefully soon you guys don't have to see all this, and I can just jump to it. I don't know. I mean, Poland here, they're just a Russian puppet state now. I don't know if they even want to live. Czechoslovakia's back together. They kind of have to. Over here, Yugoslavia is going to be reunited, but it is not just going to be Yugoslavia, it is going to be Greater Yugoslavia. So first, of course, we're going to give them back all former Yugoslav lands. And then they're going to take those lands and they're going to expand by annexing Albania. And a small amount of some other neighbors. The Russians really gave them a lot of land as they take, just a ton of land out of Greece. They take some of the north out of Bulgaria. They just take a decent amount of land in general, and out of Romania. They also take a small bit of land out of Hungary, a small little slice. But Hungary, I mean, they're alive. They're not thriving, but they're surviving. And as for the rest of this in Greece, that's just going to be given over to the Bulgarians. Greece is now a Yugoslavian puppet state, and Bulgaria is a Russian puppet state. So Yugoslavia here, I'd say Serbia's fairly happy with this. They are now most definitely the master of the Balkans, and if this were to just randomly come together in real life, well, that would be quite the, maybe not a major power, but quite the power right there. As for the rest of the world, am I missing anything? Got the Middle East. Over here, China. And China just annexed a bunch of land from India. India also lost a bunch of land to Pakistan. So if I had to guess who's the most populated now, I would go China, probably Pakistan, then maybe Indonesia. With the US gone, I forgot to share statistics at the beginning of the video. I could tell you about what it would be, but in the very beginning, it would be the exact same as in real life. Just get rid of the US. For size, maybe get rid of Brazil. For economy or for military, get rid of the UK as well. It would be the exact same, but by now, multiple economies have completely crashed, and many are in the process of crashing right after a massive war. Malaysia, they're alive. Myanmar, however, is not merely alive. Their land area has maybe not almost, it is almost doubled. And they went from a very weak and insignificant country to a semi-weak and semi-insignificant country. Good for you. Once again, biggest winners here, probably Laos. Actually, no, not Laos. They got a bunch of rainforest from Thailand, although they did get a decent amount of important land out of Vietnam. Don't ask me how they'd hold on to this, but they are. They somehow are. And then Cambodia, that got the city of Bangkok, the capital of Thailand, and made a multitude of major cities in Vietnam, from Vietnam, I should say. If Laos and Cambodia united, I could see that happening, honestly, in this scenario. I could very much so see that happening into a much more powerful Southeast Asian nation. China, they took some land, re-annexed Taiwan, took some islands. Also, should I have them? Yeah, just annex Mongolia. If Russia gets to annex their allies to try and stop China from being the greatest power, then China gets to do that. From here, I could definitely see China and Russia splitting apart. Their main reason for friendship was to stop the West, and with the West now stopped, they may just fully turn against each other, and now to try to outpower each other. In the beginning, Russia might still be a small amount stronger than China, but in the end, China would come out on top. Okay, with all the new borders redrawn, let's color this all out. Once again, power dynamics, probably China and Russia fighting for number one, the EU trying to assert themselves as a power. I haven't done anything with Africa. They'd probably just be allying themselves with China, who's giving them money. In the end, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you all next time. Bye.